and welcome to Puppet Zone Episode 5. My name is Greg, and today we're going to be looking at the basics of puppetry. So grab your puppet, or if you don't have a puppet, grab a sock and put it on your hand, and let's get started. Now, if you spent any time online, you notice that most people look at 5 basics of puppetry, because really these are the very basics that's going to make your puppet skills produce the most believable and lifelike performances you can do with your little stuffed puppet. Okay, and so we're going to start off. These are pretty basic, but they're super important. The first thing I'm going to look at is lip sync. Okay, there's nothing more distracting than watching a puppet show when the puppet's mouth does not match the words or the audio. Okay, and so what you want to do is develop good lip sync skills. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to keep our puppet's mouth closed for the most part until he's speaking. And when he speaks, he's going to open his mouth for each syllable. That way he gets a believable, it looks like he's really talking. Okay? And so the way that we do that is we're going to drop his bottom jaw. We don't want to flip the top of him. We want to drop the bottom jaw like we do when we talk. And to do that, you're going to take your thumb and you're going to let it drop. Now that takes some practice. Lots of people want to flip up like that. But what we want to do is we want to isolate the muscle and learn to drop that thumb to give us a believable lip sync. Okay, so grab your puppet. And the easiest way to do this is to start by counting to 10. And we're going to open and close the mouth for each syllable. So let's do this together. You ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now did you see that? On 7, there's 2 syllables, so we drop his mouth or open his mouth 2 times to make it look believable. And so that is what lip sync is. It's learning to drop the jaw, open the mouth for each syllable. The way I like to practice that is to get your puppet and turn on some music, especially from songs that you know, and let your puppet sing along. It helps build your arm muscles, but it also improves your lip sync. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. But if you learn poorly, if you don't learn correctly, then it's a hard habit to get out of. And so remember, drop the jaw, okay, open the mouth for each syllable as you speak. That's number 1, lip sync. The second thing that you want to focus on is the position of your puppet, or really the height, especially if you're behind a puppet stage, where most of these kind of puppets live. Okay? Now, if your puppet is below the stage, okay, let's pretend that this is my stage level. If this is where our puppet lives, our audience is not going to be able to see the puppet, because for most audiences in most puppet shows, they're going to be seated and they're going to be lower than the puppet. Okay? They're going to be looking up at our puppets. And that means that we've got to be high enough so that they can see us from where they're at. Okay? So you want your puppet up. I've heard it said, keep your puppet at belly button high. If it had a belly button, keep it up. Okay? You want most of your puppet up at the top of your puppet stage. Not so much that they see your arm, but again, remember, they're going to see less of their puppet because of the lower elevation that they're sitting at. So keep your puppet up. Make sure your puppet is nice and straight. You don't want them leaning, okay? Because we don't stand, we don't walk that way. Remember, your puppet should have gravity just like we do. You're trying to portray a lifelike performance of your puppet. You don't want them to forget that it's a puppet. You want them to really get keyed in on the story. The best way to do that is have some believable lifelike movement. And that's our third thing, is believable movement. You want your puppet to move like it's really alive. It's bound by gravity, okay? And so when your puppet is moving, you want him to move just like we do. He can walk, he can run, he can swim, but give him believable movement, okay? That leads into the fourth thing, and that's going to be entrances and exits, okay? And so you want your puppet to walk in like he's walking upstairs. Now, because of the frame of this camera, I can't have my puppet up high enough because you would lose sight of him, but you want your puppet up high with your arms straight, okay? And to do that, that means you're going to walk all the way in, okay? And you're gonna give him a couple of bounces as he bounces into position, and then to leave, he's going to bounce back out as he comes into you. That's your entrances and your exits. For the most part, you're walking upstairs. Sometimes you may need to ride an elevator, okay? Well, would a fish walk up steps? No. And so you're going to give some motion depending on what your puppet is. A fish may swim in, okay? A flower may pop up into frame or onto the screen or onto the scene. So whatever format your puppet is, give them some believable movement, okay? People tend to walk upstairs. They don't pop up. That just kind of looks bad, and it definitely is noticeable when that happens. So remember, have a good entrance and exit. Keep your puppet with believable movements and good position and body height, okay? The last thing I want to talk about is eye contact. And you may never even thought about this, okay? But when we're interacting with people, and let's say you're talking to somebody right ahead, but you're really looking off this way, it's pretty distracting. Even on video, you notice the person is not looking at the camera, it can be distracting. Well, believe it or not, when a puppet is performing and they're not paying attention to the audience, it's distracting. And remember, your puppet is up higher because of where your audience is sitting, and so what you need to do is give your puppet kind of a downward look so that they can see the audience when they speak. Now, when they're talking to another puppet, they need to look at that puppet, okay? Drives me crazy to see puppets that don't have eye contact with whoever it is that they're talking to, because you kind of lose the believability of the skit when they're not looking at who they're talking to, unless there's a reason in the storyline, okay? Now, you don't want to turn your back and talk because the audience has kind of lost contact with the puppet that way. But you can turn sideways, give an eye contact to whoever you're talking to, but the audience can still see your face and your mouth, okay? And those 5 things are going to give you a believable performance, okay? Because really, the thing is, good puppetry, people don't notice. Bad puppetry, they really do notice. And that's not really true. People, they notice good puppetry. But the thing is, they get lost in the story when there's good puppetry. When there's bad puppetry, all they can see is a mouth that doesn't work or a hand that's stuck to the face or whatever that goes on. And so the more you practice, the better your puppetry will become, and the more you'll be able to share your story with your audience using puppetry, not in spite of puppetry. All right, thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time here on the Puppet Zone.